Craig of the Creek is one of the best productions of the new generation of Cartoon Network. In this video, I will tell you all the episodes and 5 seasons of this cartoon from start to finish. There's also a film of Craig of the Creek, and I'll try to tell you about it. Now, let's move on to our video without much ado. The 3 main characters of this cartoon are Craig, Kelsy, and J.P. Every summer afternoon, the 3 children meet at the creek to play and enjoy the outdoors before dinner. As the series progresses, Craig and his friends face challenges such as dealing with Xavier, the self-proclaimed king who seeks to dominate the territory, and navigating the complexities of growing up and the changing dynamics of their relationships throughout the series, and obstacles. In the first episode of the cartoon, Craig starts at home trying to draw a map of the creek, but is constantly interrupted by his siblings Bernard, Alexis, and Jessica, and his father Dwayne, making his work impossible. Frustrated, Craig travels to the creek, where he finds Kelsy training her pet parakeet, Mortimer, using JP as a target. JP points to an unexplored area in the middle of the poison ivy forest, and Craig decides to go there and make his mark on the creek. Craig, Kelsy, and JP prepare for the dangerous mission by gathering supplies from Kit at the trading tree, who warns them of the risk of the forest. As they make their way through the vines, they encounter various challenges, including JP getting caught in a fishing line they use as a guide. JP begins to fall ill as he's caught in poison ivy, and his protective suit is torn. Eventually, they lose the healing ointment and have to rely on signs in the forest to keep going. While in the forest, they encounter a mysterious shirtless boy who is immune to poison ivy. The boy explains that he stays in the woods because he feels ignored at home. The boy helps them on their journey, and Craig marks the grove on his map, warning them to stay outside. When they leave, the boy lifts them into the air to help them see the city from above, and they return to the creek with a hard but safe descent. The next episode begins with Craig, Kelsy, and JP running to the trading tree. Craig finds a honeysuckle in the creek and trades it to Kit, who in turn gives JP a mood ring. Kit encourages the trio to seek the source of the honeysuckle, promising more rewards if they bring back more honeysuckle. They board an inflatable raft and go under an eerie overpass where they find lots of honeysuckle, but also encounter the mysterious green poncho, who seems menacing. Back at the creek, JP exchanges the honeysuckle for 2 dinosaur toys, but the group realizes they must go back for more. Kelsy is hesitant because of the danger, but Craig convinces her to go back, and Kit joins them. Craig tries to photograph the strange symbols under the overpass, but the green poncho attacks and forces them to flee and leave the honeysuckle. The green poncho warns them that the overpass is not safe. In the end, JP trades his mood ring for another toy, and Craig thinks that some places are better left unexplored. In the last major episode of Season 1, Craig's mother takes Craig and Craig's sister Jessica on a trip, but instead of taking care of his sister Jessica, Craig continues to draw on his map and remembers the kingdoms they visited in previous episodes. Meanwhile, Jessica escapes into the forest, and Craig goes after her to find her. Meanwhile, Craig meets the Honeysuckle Boys, Raj and Sean, who introduce themselves as friendly and say they can help him. Then they find Jessica, but the Honeysuckle Boys become too interested in Craig's map and want to take it to their king. However, when Craig refuses to give it to them, the map is torn and the chase begins, and they attack with cones. However, the green poncho they meet under the overpass comes and saves them. Then the green poncho warns them not to cross the overpass, and the episode ends in this way. In the first episode of Season 2, the episode begins with Craig at the entrance to the sewers, redrawing a section of the map that the Honeysuckle Rangers had destroyed in the previous episode. The sewer queen is confused, but Craig explains the situation. Later, at the trading tree, Bobby tells Craig that some boys in capes and flowers are looking for him. Realizing that they're the Honeysuckle Rangers, Craig rushes to the stump with the help of Kelsy and JP. At the stump, they hide while the Honeysuckle Rangers search for Craig's map. When the Rangers leave for dinner, they plan to return the next day. Worried, Craig and his friends visit the green poncho at the overpass, who explains that the king of the other side of the creek is behind the Rangers' actions. Craig devises a plan to give the Rangers a fake map to defeat them. When the Rangers return the next day, Craig accidentally gives them the real map and has to chase them to replace it with the fake one. In the sewers, Craig overhears Raj and Sean arguing about their troubled relationship with the king, which motivates them to steal the map. Craig sympathizes with them and eventually manages to swap maps. As the episode ends with the sewer boys blocking the pipe used as an entrance to the other side, Craig reflects on the Honeysuckle Rangers' actions, worried that they may have further strained his friendship with the king. In the next episode, Craig and his friends discuss where to go on the map while eating ice cream, and he finally says that they can give their ice cream to the Green Poncho. Then they cross to the other side under the overpass. Then the Green Poncho comes to them thinking that there's danger, but Craig tells him to eat only ice cream. Then they think that the Green Poncho is tired because he's guarding the pass and they want to help him. The Green Poncho is surprised by this at first, but accepts it and even gives him a manga. Then Craig and his friends start to protect the pass. However, JP, who sees that there is a sound coming from the bushes, goes to check there but does not return, although Kelsy immediately goes after him. Not hearing from him, Craig goes to the bushes to intervene, but they're trapped by the Honeysuckle Rangers. The Green Poncho arrives and tries to help them, but his arrow doesn't go far enough and he can't catch the Honeysuckle Rangers. Green Poncho warns them about the king and says that if he gets the map, he can take over the other side of the stream. So they devise a plan, and Craig and his friends dress up as the Lotus Brigade and try to infiltrate them. They come across a castle on the other side of the creek, and when the guard there asks them where they came from, they say they're friends of the king and let them pass. Inside, Craig and his friends encounter a huge wooden scaffold, and there are many people they do not recognize. There are also candies that are not on the other side of the stream. They talk to the seller to buy it immediately, but then they see the Honeysuckle Rangers and immediately manage to get the map from them. At the end of a rush, they're all caught and arrested by the Honeysuckle Rangers. Finally, they go to King Xavier at the top of the tree. There, the Honeysuckle Rangers show the king the map Craig made. Seeing the map of the other side of the creek, the king is very happy, but sends the Honeysuckle Rangers without rewarding them. Angry at this, the Honeysuckle Rangers indirectly help Craig escape, and Craig manages to get the map back from the selfish king. But Maya, the king's protector, who is angry at this, tries to catch him. However, he finds Kelsy and they have a great duel. However, in the end, they manage to escape by jumping from the top of the tree to the stream, and in the end, the Green Poncho helps them and they go home. In the next episode, Craig, Kelsy, and JP are playing footsie when they receive a letter from the Green Poncho asking them to come to the overpass. Immediately, Craig and his friends go to the Green Poncho and see that the Green Poncho has captured Raj and Sean, the agents of the stream on the other side. However, Raj and Sean say that they are not agents and that they're tired of King Xavier's bullying, because the king's family is very rich and that's why he had a lot of candy brands, and that's how he tricked children with candies and forced them to be friends. He was also preventing candy from being brought from the other side of the creek because the other side's candy was more flavorful, and if they bought that candy, he wouldn't have anything special. So Raj and Sean asked Craig for a lot of candy, because they could make it popular on the other side of the creek. So Craig and his friends go on a candy collecting hunt and give Raj and Sean lots of candy. Later, Raj and Sean open a candy shop and sell candy to the kids on the other side of the creek. They start giving out the candy. However, Maya comes and tries to inspect the place, but they hide it, and then Raj and Sean try to give up, but they're encouraged again by Craig. Then Craig tries to bring more sweets and is stopped by Maya. Maya immediately realizes that Craig is the boy on the other side of the stream and tries to attack him. His friends immediately intervene, and even the Green Poncho comes there to help, and they manage to defeat Maya in this way. But when they return to the Sugar Cafe, they say they can't bring sugar. However, the children there realize that they're not there for candy, but because they really don't like the king. And everyone talks about how much they don't like the king. In another episode, Craig and his friends go on an adventure to investigate the ancient history of the creek, and soon find a castle. They realize that this is the home of the founders, and they realize with their mobile phones that this is a very old place, 50 years old. And as a result of a research, they find an ancient letter written in an ancient language. At night, Craig asks his father at home what this letter means. His father says that it's not an ancient language, it's only written in a coded language. Then Craig and his friends go to the founder's house tomorrow, and here they try to solve this encrypted letter. After some difficulty, they discover the writing behind the piece, and when they look behind the peace symbol, they find a room full of sweets and immediately try to take them away. And they even discover the map of the old stream there, but then the whole room collapses and they escape. But at the last moment, Craig manages to save a picture that the founders used to be afraid of, and that's how this episode ends. In another episode, they manage to decrypt the entire letter written by these founder children. Afterwards, Craig and his friends ask the young people about this letter, but they don't know it either. Craig and his friends realize that there was a capture the flag battle in the letter, and that the creek was destroyed at that time because of this battle. And so, Craig and his friends try to prevent the creek from fighting such a war again, otherwise the creek could be destroyed again. However, at the end of the episode, they cannot find out how this war started, and they say that the important thing is to make sure that they do not start this war. In the season 2 finale, Craig and his friends meet the Green Poncho under the overpass. Craig tries to talk to the Green Poncho, but the Green Poncho is very cold to them and gives them short answers. Craig and his friends argue about how difficult the Green Poncho is. Then Craig accidentally throws Green Poncho's boomerang, and they have to get it back. So the Green Poncho assigns Kelsy and JP J.P. to guard the overpass. Then Craig and the Green Poncho go in search of the boomerang. However, they encounter Maya and immediately start fighting, and as a result, Green Poncho and Craig are defeated. Meanwhile, Craig learns that the Green Poncho's name is Omar, and he also brings Boomerang back. He finishes Maya off and lets them escape. Afterwards, Craig asks Omar questions and tries to learn about his past. Omar tells Craig how he met Maya and Xavier. Actually, Omar and Maya were very close friends, but one day they met Xavier, who's stuck in a tree while trying to get his frisbee in the forest. They rescue him immediately, and Xavier gives them one of the candy brands owned by his father as a thank you. Then the guards of the castle where Xavier is the king arrive and want to take him back to the castle. Xavier invites Maya and Omar to the king's castle to play a game. Maya and Omar accept this offer, of course. Then they start to bully other citizens of the castle and enjoy it very much. But then King Xavier's sister Cheyenne appears and says that he will be the new king. Cheyenne can't hang out in the forest anymore because she'll start high school, so she chooses her little brother Xavier as the new king. However, he tells him to take a friend with him. Xavier, on the other hand, cannot choose between Maya and Omar, so he asks them to solve who will be the guardian by fighting. Although Omar does not want this, Maya immediately tries to attack Omar, and eventually Omar defeats Maya and is chosen as the new guard by the king. However, Omar refuses, saying that Xavier cannot be friends with him because he's too spoiled. Xavier takes Maya with him and calls his guards and asks them to catch Omar. Omar escapes, but just as he's about to be captured, he's saved by the old Green Poncho. And in this way, Omar appoints himself as the new Green Poncho. In the first episode of the third season, a surprise birthday party is organized for Craig's father, Dwayne. Afterwards, Craig's cousin Bryson arrives, and Craig is unhappy that his brother bought a pineapple clock as a gift for his father because his gift is very unimpressive. Bryson, on the other hand, said that this is not a problem and has bought a cooling hose with him. They immediately go to the forest and get wet, but then they see fireworks going off on the other side of the creek and immediately set off to talk to the Green Poncho. Then Green Poncho comes there and talks about the tournament, an event held every year at the king's birthday party. But then they see the prizes of this tournament, and it's very cool. Craig realizes that he can buy a very nice gift for his father when they get one of these prizes. Bryson encourages him by saying that he can do it, and they go on a journey to the other side of the creek. But when they realize they can't get in without a costume, they ask the Honeysuckle Rangers for help, and they give them the Honeysuckle Rangers costumes. Then the first game of the tournament, Green Light, Red Light, begins. Craig says that he will participate in this competition, but then someone from the Summer Flowers rank called Blur arrives, and everyone who sees him starts to withdraw from the game. Then the game starts, but Blur pushes Craig down and continues very quickly. Blur runs without waiting for the red light to change to prove his speed, but the gray light comes and he's eliminated, and Craig comfortably wins this game. A water balloon throwing competition follows, and Bryson participates and scores very well, but the champion of the water lilies comes and crushes them and wins. Then there's a dueling competition, and Kelsy and J.P. want to win, but the giant Squashinator appears and says that he will crush them. Kelsy beats him at first, but after the Squashinator goes crazy, he throws him and thinks he's won the competition. However, Kelsy gets up from the ground and puts the Squashinator in his place and completes this competition without any trouble. However, this win made Xavier suspicious, and by the time they got to the final, it was down to the Cherry Blossoms and the Honeysuckle Rangers. Xavier announces that the final game is hand toasting. Kelsy wanted to do it, but she was too physically injured to do it. So Craig took full responsibility and said that he would be the one to go out for this last challenge. Meanwhile, Maya challenged Craig, saying that she would be the one to face him. She then continued to hit Craig's hands, but was pulled out of the match. He let Craig win. However, later we realized that he had done this on purpose and realized that it was Craig, so they immediately capture Craig and his friends. Later, Xavier manages to forcibly take the map from Craig, and Craig says he'll get it back. But Xavier shows him his genius plan and surprises everyone by taking his picture with his mobile phone and gives the map back. Afterwards, he punished them and exiled them to the maze. There they struggled with a lot of difficulties, but eventually they came out of the labyrinth. And at the last moment, he managed to reach his father's birthday party. In another episode, we realized that it was the last day of summer because everyone was very sad. Then Stax calls and calls them to the library, tells them that the first boy who played in the forest has read all 87 diaries. He tells them that the whole children's kingdom was ruined by a capture the flag race. Stax then reveals that he's solved a mystery and that by adding up all the game's master scores, he's found a secret note. In this note, it was written that there's a last hide-and-seek game and tells them that there's a mysterious treasure in the forest. Craig motivates them by telling them that this is their last chance because it is the last day of summer, and they go on a search. As a result of their search, they discover that there's a mysterious cave under the rock. After encountering difficulties and puzzles here, they manage to reach the treasure by solving all of them. It turned out that the game master actually hid the flag flags that were in the Battle of Capture the Flag years ago. The next chapter begins with Craig introducing the citizens of his forest to the other side of the creek. He talks about how cruel it is and King Xavier. Then Omar, the green poncho, comes there and introduces himself to everyone. Then he starts to tell how King Xavier became king. On that day, Cheyenne resigns from being king because she'll start high school and declares Xavier king with a crown handover ceremony. Later, Green Poncho and Omar are watching them from afar, angry that his friend Maya is on his side. Omar and Green Poncho then begin arrow training, and the Green Poncho continues to give him advice. Then, just as King Xavier is about to bully the other children, the Green Poncho appears and manages to drive them away. Omar comes and tries to be friends with Maya again, but is cruelly rejected. Omar believes that Maya will be friends with him again, but Maya comes to him and asks him to apologize to King Xavier. However, Omar refuses, after which King Xavier arrives and reveals the identity of the Green Poncho. King Xavier realizes that he's a high school student and threatens him by saying, "I will tell your friends that you hang out in the forest." And Green Poncho is forced to accept this and leaves, saying that he can no longer be Green Poncho. Omar, who's very angry about this, goes away and continues his arrow training and becomes the Green Poncho in this way. However, the boys in Craig's forest leave, saying that we cannot change our way of life because of a crowned fool. In another episode, it is now winter and snow is everywhere, so there are no children in the forest. Craig wanders around the forest remembering the old days and feeling sad. Then Kit appears and talks about a rumor. He tells Craig that there's a monster in the forest and that he should be careful. However, it is very difficult to proceed by looking at the map because it's difficult to understand because of the snow everywhere. Then Craig's map flies and he faints by hitting a tree on the way after him. However, he wakes up in a house made of cardboard and JP enters, but he has a beard and says he has a son. Craig says it's only been a week, but JP denies it and says it's been too long. However, we realize that this is a joke. They then set off and look where they're going on the map and find Kelsey's sword on the ground, and they're scared, thinking it's a monster. But Kelsey appears like a monster and scares Craig and JP. However, we understand that Kelsey's anger towards Craig is due to the fact that he's not responded to her for 2 weeks. Craig has stopped talking to them for 2 weeks because he was busy with his game. But then they're attacked by a snowball attack, and the Green Poncho comes and saves them. He says that the problem is on the other side of the creek because they started a very big snowball war. Then King Xavier appears and says that he can conquer the other side of the creek with a snowball fight. Green Poncho immediately tells them to get involved in the war, and a snowball fight begins between King Xavier. However, they continue to fight with each other, but with a perfect plan, they defeat Xavier's soldiers. Then the fight between Craig and Kelsey starts to grow more and more. Taking advantage of this situation, Xavier attacks with a very large snowball and then hits the Green Poncho and causes him to fall. Fortunately, he's saved by Craig at the last moment. After Green Poncho faints, Craig thinks that everything is over, but he's motivated by Kelsey and they make up again. On the strength of this reconciliation, they make a great team and comfortably defeat Xavier and his soldiers in a snowball fight. However, at the end of the episode, Maya tells Xavier that she's infiltrated the other side of the creek, and the episode ends there. In the finale of Season 3, Craig, Kelsey, and JP enter a bottle boat race at the creek, with Mortimer as the pilot. Despite Ren's boat malfunctioning and causing a stall, Mortimer navigates through the foam and wins the race. The prize is a week of snacks from the trading tree. However, when the Stump Kids arrive at the trading tree, they find Kit is out of snacks. Kit reveals that her grandmother Evelyn, who supplies the snacks in exchange for good grades, cut her off due to her poor report card. Worried that the trading tree will shut down, Craig and the others try to help Kit, but Evelyn refuses to listen. With Kit away at summer school, the trading tree is abandoned, and the creek kids suffer from a lack of snacks. Craig discovers that snacks imprinted with the mark of the mill have floated down the creek, indicating they were sent by King Xavier. Craig calls the Council of the Creek to discuss the situation. At the overpass, they find the Green Poncho blocking King Xavier from entering their side of the creek. Xavier offers snacks to the creek kids, but Craig warns against trusting him. Despite Craig's objections, a vote is held to decide whether to let the king enter. The vote is tied, but Bobby cast the deciding vote in favor of letting Xavier in, explaining that he lost faith in Craig's ability to solve their problems. The king is allowed to enter the creek, much to Craig's dismay. As Xavier and his royal guard enter, Craig ominously declares the creek is doomed. As the creek kids suffer from a lack of candy, King Xavier arrives, offering them all the candy they could eat, and sets up a bouncy castle in exchange for their emergency contact information. Craig confronts Xavier about his past misdeeds, but Xavier deflects the accusations, turning the situation in his favor. Over the summer, Xavier begins to exert more control over the creek, creek, buying the waterfall and taking over other areas. He even bans the game of horse after losing a challenge, using his control over the candy supply to enforce his rules. Fed up with Xavier's behavior, Craig stands up to him, but Xavier retaliates by calling Craig's mom. Thanks to Bobby unknowingly giving Xavier her number, Xavier lies to Craig's mom, getting Craig in trouble and revealing that he was behind Kit's bad report card. Dejected, Craig realizes he's likely grounded and heads home. King Xavier starts to tighten his control over the creek, destroying the 10 speeds ramps after an embarrassing bike wipeout. Meanwhile, Kelsy and the Honeysuckle Rangers, now calling themselves the Sugar Swipers, successfully steal candy from Xavier to distribute to the creek kids. However, Xavier's endless candy supply frustrates their efforts. Concerned about Xavier's growing power, Craig and his friends visit Xavier's house, where they discover that his older siblings, Cheyenne and Kenneth, were former creek rulers. Kenneth explains how he unintentionally became the first king and how each sibling passed down the title. He also reveals that Xavier is spoiled and unpunished by their parents, unlike himself. Despite their pleas, Kenneth refuses to intervene, believing Xavier would revert to his old ways even if he tried to help. Back at Craig's house, the group feels defeated, fearing the creek will soon be deserted like after the Great Capture the Flag War. Inspired, Craig decides that the only way to stop Xavier is to challenge him to a game of Capture the Flag for control of the creek. King Xavier hosts a sleepover for his royal guard, including his newest member Jason. During the gathering, tensions rise when Xavier chastises Maya for not stopping a raid on his candy stash. As the group plays games, Craig, secretly hiding in Jason's backpack, reveals himself and challenges Xavier to a game of Capture the Flag for control of the creek. Xavier accepts, agreeing that if he wins, Craig will leave the creek forever. Craig's team, including Kelsy, J.P, and other creek allies, strategize for the upcoming battle. They plan to search Xavier's likely flag locations while protecting their own. Omar, initially reluctant, agrees to fight for Craig after Craig apologizes for past events. Bobby also seeks redemption for betraying Craig. On the day of the battle, the creek kids gather near the overpass tunnel. Beth the timekeeper explains the freeze tag rules, where tag players are stuck in place for the rest of the game. After Beth the timekeeper blows her sousaphone, the Capture the Flag game begins. Paintball Benny leads the group through the tunnel, but is quickly surrounded and tagged by Acorn Knights, freezing them in place. Despite Craig's protest, Mike goes to rescue his brother, only to be tagged as well. With their forward Green Poncho, Sparkle Cadet, and Bobby take the sewers to reach Wisteria Fort. Kelsy, Maney, and the 10 Speeds head to the maze, while Craig, with the help of Wildernessa, goes to Xavier's keep. As they set off, Kelsy senses Maya's presence but dismisses it as nothing. At them. Meanwhile, at the maze, Kelsy, Maney, and the 10 speeders split up to cover more ground. Handlebarb's bike is quickly dismantled by Kuhn Soup, the Blur, who screams and discover Handlebarb's frozen body. The Blur tags Maney, freezing him, before revealing himself to Kelsy and Cannon, leader, to which Wildernessa questions whether he's trying to convince her or himself. Suddenly, Aggie the Squashinator appears as companion, Cheese Sticks, leaving Craig vulnerable. Wildernessa sacrifices herself by taking the tag meant for Craig, freezing in place just as she's about to confess her feelings. Energized by candy, Bobby blasts Jackie with more candy. In the maze, Cannonball challenges Kyunsup to a race, leading him into another dimension called Cannon Space. Back at the Poison Ivy patch, Maya defeats the Ninja Kids and advances towards the flag. JP and Carter try to defend their position with a cardboard fortress that fires packing peanuts, but Maya dodges the attacks. When Lil Chris is accidentally fired out of a cannon, Maya knocks him back. As a last resort, Carter fights, despite Kelsey's fear of never having defeated Maya before. At Xavier's keep, Xavier plays a keyboard and casually offers Craig snacks, but Craig demands to know where the flag is. Xavier claims not to have it, only says that because he has nothing left to lose. Back at the keep, Xavier tries to convince Craig that he became king to lead the kids, and that this battle could have been avoided with the right leadership. Craig asks if Xavier is suggesting he should be king, but Xavier dismisses the idea, saying Craig could never handle. At the overpass, the Green Ponchos fire Kelsy at Maya like a human arrow, knocking her down. Kelsy demands the flag, but Maya, tearful and distraught, refuses, fearing she'll lose everything, including her status as BFF. Omar comforts her off just as Xavier tackles him onto Craig's side of the creek, winning the game. Beth blows her sousaphone, announcing Craig's victory. Everyone is unfrozen. Omar rushes to Maya, but she disappears, leaving her cape behind. On the play how they want, free from a single ruler. He tears up the flag, freeing the kids on the other side to play as they wish. Sometime later, Kelsy asks what they should do next. Craig suggests that with the king gone, they can explore the other side of the creek, flipping the entire creek. Also, now that the two forests have merged, work can be done more easily. Later, Craig discovers that the other side has a lot of places to visit. Omar also comes along and wants to go to the other side with him. Then Omar meets a boy who hates him and says that his hair is shaved because of him. Hearing this, Omar gets upset and runs away there, and Craig tries to find him. Then he finds Omar and tells him that other people will forget his green poncho identity. However, Omar thinks the opposite. At that time, they encounter a child in need of help, and although Craig wants to help, he's dragged down the cliff. But Omar manages to save them with his knowledge. Then the skater boys give them the Kenneth Cube. Omar explains to them that it has 26 pieces and that the old king hid them all over the forest. Hearing this, Craig and his friends are excited to start a new adventure. In the following episodes, they manage to find 6 cubes, but I don't tell those parts so the video doesn't get longer. In another episode, they need to talk to Xavier's brother Kenneth to get information about the heart of the forest. So they think of going in with Kelsy and Omar before Craig Xavier catches them. However, they are attacked by Xavier's drones, but they manage to finish them off. Seeing this, Xavier cries at first, but then gets angry with them. Later, when they ask for Kenneth, Xavier tells them that he went to the university. Craig and his friends immediately run away from there. Afterwards, they're happy to find 6 cubes, but they do not know where the other 6 cubes are. Then they go to the young people who they hope know where Kenneth is, but they say that they've not seen Kenneth. But then they remember that they've recorded him on their mobile phones and they call him on video. However, because the teenagers are arguing among themselves, Craig can't get a turn, and so he can't talk to Kenneth. Finally, they learn that the heart of the forest actually comes from Kenneth's favorite show, and here the episode ends. In another episode, Craig is watching Kenneth's favorite show about the heart of the forest. Then we see that the cube is almost complete, but Craig still doesn't know where the heart of the forest is because he still can't complete it. Craig is then excited to go to the summer fair with Bernard because he thinks he'll be able to eat ice cream there. However, it turns out that it is not a summer fair. Bernard tells him he's going to give him a tour of the university, and Craig is upset when he hears this. But it turns out that the tour isn't so bad because Craig sees Kenneth and wants to talk to him about the heart of the forest and starts running after him. He finally manages to catch him and ask him questions about the heart of the forest while eating ice cream. However, Kenneth says that he doesn't know where the other pieces are, that he gave them to his other friends and they've already scattered them all over the forest. Then Kenneth says that he used to have no friends, but when he found the heart of the forest, he had a lot of friends. These sentences make Craig hopeful and realizes that the heart of the forest is real. The final episode of season 4 starts with Omar being nervous about meeting Maya again. However, Craig tells him that nothing will happen to him and that they can be friends again, even if he used to be enemies. Although Omar is worried when Maya arrives, they talk a lot afterwards. Omar even tells her about Kenneth's cubes. Omar calls Maya for help, but she explains that she's joined the baseball team and therefore does not have much time. Omar says that this is not a problem, but at that moment, the candy he throws from his hand sticks to the head of the boy whose hair is scraped. The boy who's mad about this tries to attack Omar, but is protected by Maya. But everyone there gets angry at Maya for being too harsh and sends her away. The next day, Craig and his friends find a mysterious cave. When they enter the cave, they see that it's filled with many stars, but then the stars go out and Craig realizes that the stars need light to shine. So they all work together on a device. Meanwhile, Omar is upset that there's no message from Maya. Finally, they prepare the device, and when they run it, they see that everything is shining and they're happy. However, a figure appears in the darkness, and he is the Red Poncho. He immediately steals the cube there and escapes and dodges the arrow shot. The episode ends with Craig and his friends not knowing who he is. In the first episode of season 5, Craig and his friends make a suggestion about who the Red Poncho is, and they make a list of suspects. The first suspect is Wolfgang, who might have wanted revenge for Omar sticking sugar on his head, but it couldn't possibly be Wolfgang or he would have tried to get revenge on everyone. The second suspect was Big Red because Craig had beaten him in darts competition. The next suspect was Roger. He was one of the main suspects because he was too weird. Then they thought it might be Eliza, but she was so lazy she couldn't do it. And the last suspect was Maya. But Omar was furious and defended her, saying she had changed. But then they followed Maya to find evidence, and they suspect a somersault because she did the same somersault as the Red Poncho. Then Omar calls her to meet him, and on the way, Maya is caught by Omar holding a piece of the cube, and Omar's very angry with her, telling her that it was the Red Poncho. But Maya was unaware of what was happening, and it wasn't her, because the real Red Poncho comes and catches them with a trap and steals the cube in Maya's hand and runs away. But then he's knocked down by Kelsy and manages to get the cube. However, Maya gets very angry with them because she suspects her and leaves, saying that they do not trust her. Craig realizes that the Red Poncho is Xavier based on the drones. In the next episode, we see Xavier's situation after the Capture the Flag game. Since he was no longer the king of the forest, everyone was making fun of him and destroying his statues. Xavier had no friends after that day and was all alone in his room. But then he ordered a lot of drones and started using them for himself. One day, Craig and his friends came to his house and broke all his drones. There, he realized that Craig was up to something, so he followed them with his drones. After he learned all about the heart of the forest and the cube, then he asked his brother Kenneth about the heart of the forest. Kenneth told him he didn't didn't know where it was and Xavier wanted to find it himself. Then, inspired by the green poncho, he ordered himself a red poncho and wanted to be Red Poncho, but he was very weak. Later, his older sister Cheyenne came and taught him how to fight and punch. In the next episode, Craig and his friends go on a journey to find the 12 cubes before Xavier. After traveling a lot, they slowly start to find them, but then they fall into a pit and the people there do not welcome them very well. But then they let them pass, saying that they're the children in the prophecy. Craig manages to reach the piece of the cube by digging there. For the next cube, they need to win in the surgery game, and they do it. In the sequel, they wanted to take the cube from the Cat Boys, but this time the Red Poncho was there and managed to steal the cube from him. They say that the Red Poncho is later Xavier, and it turns out that it really is him. Afterwards, Xavier always comes before them and manages to steal the cubes. Then they start to despair, but Craig gives them hope and they decide to go to Xavier's house. When they get there, they ask Xavier how many cubes he has. Craig has 15 and Xavier has 10, so there's the last one cube. While they're discussing where to find it, Omar thinks that Maya has one cube. Then Omar tells this to Craig and Xavier hears this and immediately starts a rush, but Maya closes the door in their face. Then Craig explains that they thought Maya was the Red Poncho. When Xavier jokingly says that she'll never be as strong as me, Maya gets very angry. Opening the door, she confesses that she cannot give the cube because she threw it into the stream because they angered her. In the next episode, Craig and his friends search for a cube fragment in the creek but cannot find it. Omar suggests taking a break, but Craig insists that they must find the cube to take Xavier to the heart of the forest. It starts to rain and everyone goes home. Craig dodges his homework, watches the anime Haru, Prince of the Forest, and falls asleep. He dreams that he reads the witch's fortune and predicts that he won't be friends with this group in a few years. After waking up, Craig continues his search. He finds Kelsy and Stax reading books together, but they want to hang out without him. Feeling left out, Craig imagines them as teenagers who are no longer friends with him. Frustrated, he leaves the library and goes to JP's house to vent. However, JP texts Omar about a program that Craig does not like, which makes Craig feel left out again. He sees JP as a future teenager and runs away from home with JP's phone still in his hand. Desperate, Craig hangs out with Wildernessa, who shares her views on the program. He admires her, but then imagines her and the dog as future versions of themselves. Craig panics about the future and worries about losing his friends. He confesses that he likes Wildernessa, but still wants to remain friends with his current group. He runs off to find the cube. Wildernessa interprets this as Craig confessing that he also likes her. Eventually, Craig encounters Xavier, who's exhausted from searching for the cube alone. Xavier surprises Craig by offering to team up to find the cube. Afterwards, Craig and Xavier team up to continue their search for the last piece of the cube. They find this piece in one of Xavier's drones and try hard to get it. When Xavier can't get it on his own, Craig offers to help. Xavier obligingly accepts and gives him the joystick, and the two of them work as a team and manage to get the cube out of the dumpster with drones. At the end, Craig confesses that he had a great time with Xavier. This makes Xavier very happy and gives the last piece of the cube to Craig. Craig offers to go to the log with him. In the next episode, Omar goes to Maya to mend his rift with her and makes a few jokes. But in the end, Craig calls and says that they found the last piece of the cube and invites him to the log. Omar asks Maya to come along. Maya leaves baseball at the last moment and goes to Omar. All the people and Craig friends gather there. However, when they learn that Xavier is coming, some of them make difficulties and do not want him here. Craig solves the situation by talking to them privately. Finally, they solve the map by combining all the pieces of the cube. Everyone gets ready and they go on this challenging journey to the heart of the forest. At the end, they pass under the waterfall and reach a secret place. There, Xavier betrays them again and tells them that evil is coming. In the final episode of Season 5, we learn why Xavier betrayed them. He explains that he wants to be friends with them along the way, but the others do not give him a chance and think that Xavier will betray them. Therefore, Xavier starts to want to betray, and as a result, he betrays. Craig tries to tell him that if he becomes king of the forest, he will not be his real friends. But Xavier tells the others Craig's real secret. Craig wants to find the heart of the forest because he thinks that in the future, his friends will not want to be friends with him, so he will want to be friends with them forever from the heart of the forest. Afterwards, everyone feels betrayed. Xavier also accidentally breaks the drone controller, causing the drones to turn against him. Meanwhile, back at home, Kenneth sees what's happening on the computer and immediately sets off to get there. Later, during an escape, they get too close to the heart of the forest, and also Craig and his friends fight about what happened. Afterwards, everyone continues to destroy the drones, and they think they're getting rid of them. However, they destroy them with candies in the pipes. As a result of these explosions, Kelsy and J.P. disappear, and then a giant monster emerges from the candies as a result of the explosions. However, he's saved by Bernard at the last moment. Kenneth also comes with his car and destroys the monsters. At the end, Craig comes to the heart of the forest and tells him his sorrow for the disappearance of Kelsy and J.P. there, and he knows he has to sacrifice his most precious thing. He asks the heart of of the forest to fulfill his wish by sacrificing his most valuable thing, his map, and he wants to bring back his friends like all the other children. Finally, with the power of the heart of the forest, Kelsy and J.P. come again, and they give a very big hug. Then Maya and Omar also come there and say that Xavier sacrificed himself. However, Xavier soon appears, and Maya and Omar are very happy to see him. Omar apologizes to Xavier, and they make up again. At the end of the episode, everyone hugs together and becomes friends. I told the whole story of Craig of the Creek. However, since season 6 is still airing, I could not tell the 6th season. But if this video gets 1,000 likes, I will also make the video of season 6. I hope you all enjoyed this recap. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the show you want to see the next recap. Thanks for watching. See ya!